The Labour-led government has delivered what's been called a restrained, cautious, responsible budget in its first year, keeping money in the kitty instead of a major spend-up. It's investing more money in health and education and housing while also forecasting a more than $3 billion surplus this year and growing. We'll hear from the Health Minister later in the program. We'll also hear from Amy Adams later in the program and Grant Robertson himself next. But first of all, here's our political reporter, Craig McCulloch.
Foundations for the future. The words emblazoned across the papers. The first budget in red for almost a decade.
This government will always remember what matters most. He aha te me nui o te ao. Hei tangata, hei tangata, hei tangata. Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa.
The people, the people, the people. The Finance Minister Grant Robertson says this government is different. This government's putting people at the centre. But what does that look like?
Rebuilding our health services is the top priority for this budget. Health will receive a huge boost in new operating funding with $3.2 billion more over the next 4 years.
That's $1 billion more than the national government promised in last year's budget. More children will get free doctor's visits from December. Anyone under the age of 14, up from 13. Those on low incomes will see lower GP fees too. Anyone with a community services card.
This will make doctors' visits approximately $20 to $30 cheaper for more than 500,000 people.
A big boost too in spending to rebuild ageing hospitals and fix problems such as those faced by Middlemore and Christchurch hospitals, dealing with leaky, mouldy and dilapidated workspaces. $750 million more to tackle building problems. That's $600 million more than National pledged last year.
Today's investment is the biggest commitment to rebuilding health infrastructure in a decade. Mr. Speaker, this budget also sets aside funding for the design work for a brand new hospital in Dunedin.
Christchurch locals say the investment in hospital buildings can't come soon enough.
But also they're forever and behind really in terms of their capital expenditure, so that's probably just going to bring it up to speed really, or even, yeah, I mean, if it's enough. But yeah, that's all good.
Hospitals, they need to be upgraded all the time, continuously. But yes, to repair the damaged stuff, the mental health stuff up in Princess Margaret Hospital, it's absolutely atrocious, the conditions.
I think it's needed everywhere, isn't it? I think Middlemore Hospital was a prime example, just looking at the outside, God knows what it's like on the inside.
More money in the budget too for education, though not as much as the sector would have wanted. And the promised state houses, roughly 1,600 will be built a year, even more than the 1,000 Labour had promised.
The different priorities of this government are never clearer than in housing.
New houses, but no new prisons. The budget had no decision about the proposed mega prison in Waikeria to deal with the burgeoning population. Instead, almost $200 million to set up some quick-build prison units by the end of next year to house 600 prisoners. In many ways, it's a cautious budget and meets the fiscal rules, and more than $3 billion should be left in the kitty as surplus this year.
Transformation takes time. It cannot happen all at once. One budget cannot instantly fix 9 years of complacency and neglect.
Mr. Speaker, the tragedy is today it could have been a great budget.
Far from 9 years of neglect, National's Simon Bridges says his government left the country with a growing economy and healthy finances.
For Grant Robertson, enough is never enough, Mr. Speaker. It's a tax and spend, it's a borrow and hope budget.
It's an underwhelming budget, he says, strewn with broken promises. No money for a Dunedin hospital. Doctors' visits not cheaper for everyone. Instead, Simon Bridges says the money's going to keep New Zealand first happy. Nearly $1 billion in foreign aid and foreign affairs.
Where's it going? $1 billion for diplomats, not doctors, Mr. Speaker. It's not let's do this. It's Winston made us do this, Mr. Speaker.
Any fool can spend, he says. A spray and walk away budget won't work. But the Prime Minister has a different idea.
Now actually, that one I'm going to give you, no, because at first I thought it was metaphorical, until I reminded myself that this is a cleaning product for algae and mould removal. Rather than a jibe, it may be a legitimate tip from the Leader of the Opposition to clean up our rivers and our hospitals.
The government's been clear this is just the first budget in a trilogy. In other words, there's more to come.
We have built the foundations for the future. I commend this budget to the House.
From Parliament for Checkpoint, Craig McCulloch.